How's it going? Welcome back to the shed. So today we're going to be revisiting an old friend, the Suzuki DRZ SM.
No, this is wrong channel. Let me try this again.
Hey, it's David. People keep asking me, when's the next video on the DRZ? So let's get into it.
Again, wrong channel, wrong guy. Third time lucky. Let's try this again, shall we? Hello and welcome to yet another episode from the fabulous garage with me, your host, Maki. That's more like it. Time to reveal the new project. Ready for it? Of course you're fucking ready. Let's have a look. Before we do so, however, before I show you what I got for the next project, a little bit of a background info and background story. Why the two different intros and what's going on here? Well, this bike used to belong to Johnny Cactus, which lives not far from me actually. He's done a number of things to it, and then he passed it on to Dave. Dave Mirius, Mirius' shed, Mirius' garage. He passed it on to him, which I picked it up from Mirius, from Dave, in exchange for some money and some paint job on his Harley. Long story short, I didn't need the bike, but I always wanted a bike like this. As I spotted in his garden when I delivered the paint job, the painted parts, and I said, always wanted one of those. 2 weeks later he sent me an email and he said, I'm selling it, do you want it? And even if I didn't want this bike, even if I didn't have money for it, I knew I'm gonna end up with the bike, and there she is right now in my garage. This, however, was nearly 2 years ago. I managed to enjoy the bike for over a year, but I also managed to destroy it. And that's the project when it begins. We need to rebuild it, make it roadworthy again. I'll show you what it is and what happened to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Suzuki DRZ 400 Supermoto. It's a fantastic little bike. Single cylinder, little thumper, Supermoto, heaps of fun. And I mean, the most fun you can have with your clothes on, it's right here. The Supermoto. In my eyes, one of the most fun motorcycles to ride. Full stop. Yes, it has been butchered a little bit, it has been modified a little bit, but it's always been looked after very well by both of the previous owners. Well, me too, to a certain extent, until completely destroyed it. And I'll tell you how I've done it. So I've got it from Dave, picked it up from where he lives, rode it back to Cambridge, and I started enjoying it. I was riding it near enough every day. I was riding it more than my KTM at the time. I took it, in the places that any other bike wouldn't really go, because it is a dirt bike in the end of the day with street tires, slightly different suspension, but the ergonomics of it are exactly the same. So what I've started doing, I wheelied everywhere. I basically rode on one wheel, on rear wheel, everywhere I could, every straight of the road, everywhere that it was safe, obviously, and legal to do so. I rode it on one wheel. And as a result, because I probably covered more miles on the rear tire than on both tires, as a result, the problem happened right here. The bearings from the front sprocket, the main output shaft inside the engine, gave up. I guess maybe the chain was a little bit too tight, or maybe I was putting too much pressure of constant wheelies. There was too much pressure basically from a chain to the front sprocket, and for that reason the shaft gave up and the bearings exploded, and there was a massive crunch. Bits of metal flew out from inside there from the bearings. I did strip it all apart before, took it out. There's a movement on the output, on the main shaft output, when a sprocket attached to, and that is basically engine out job, because I need to split it apart and have it replaced inside there. Simple as that. Is it? So this happened middle of last summer, just over a year ago, I think. Yeah, just over a year ago, and I just didn't have time to get it done. Yeah, I could drop it to a garage, probably have them do the whole thing for me. It would be easier, but it costs a lot of money, you know, to have it done this way, and I had no time because I was busy with this bad boy over there. You know, it's ready, up and running now, and in between I was doing some other bits and bobs, so I just put it under the cover and it was sitting there waiting for me, and the time has come. Now this thing is up and running, I can focus on my little DRZ. I hear you, you're asking what modifications I'm gonna do to it. Am I gonna completely chop it, do kind of 70s style off-road bike, you know, from it? It's got potential to it. Yes, it does, absolutely. But the first thing I want to do, you want to rebuild the engine completely. Take it out, make sure it's up and running, put it back in as it is, don't fuck about with it too much. Take it for a spin number of times, do a few 100 miles on it, enjoy it for as long as I can before I chop it down to anything else, which I'm guessing is going to happen eventually, but not in the near future. The next project is to take the engine out and have it stripped down and rebuilt completely. Now, whether I'm going to rebuild the engine myself over here or not, I haven't decided yet. It's a big task. I'm pretty sure I could do it if I have all the time in the world on my hands. That's not always the case. So we'll see how we get on with it. I need to do some more research on that. But I'm definitely going to start with taking the engine out of the frame. Even if I end up giving the engine to the engineers to be rebuilt in a bike shop, so be it. You know, that means I'm stripping down 4 or 5 hours of labor by removing the engine out of the frame. And that's a big task alone. That means I need to pay for that time and then put it back in the frame. I can definitely do myself. The complete engine rebuild, because it's not just, you know, the bearings inside the engine, the bottom part of it. But once you got it apart, you might as well rebuild the piston and do everything else that's supposed to be done when you get the engine apart. I mean, why not? It will be a brand new engine when it's rebuilt, pretty much brand new after all. So as I mentioned, I will do more research on that, and then I'll just make up my mind later on, you know, that's not the end of the world. But the first job is take the engine out of the frame, so I need to remove as much furniture from it as I can, and then arm myself a manual and start working on it. What's the worst that can happen, right? There she is, guys. The next project, my little Suzuki DRZ 400 Supermoto. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know how many of you ride Supermoto. Let me know how many of you had a bike like this or thinking of getting a bike like this. I'll tell you what, if you do, you'll never regret it because it's fucking unbelievable. Other than that, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Keep your comments going, very, very much appreciate that. Have a beer, rock hard, and we see you very soon.